just like the crackling of these flames, some stories seep deep into a person's soul. What I'm about to tell you is not meant to frighten you, but to make sure you never forget. Because in these lands, when evening falls, it's not only darkness that comes down. Sometimes old things awaken. Now listen carefully. Many years ago, in a village hidden among mountains and trees, there lived Jose, a humble farmer who devoted his life to working the land. Living with him was his father, Don Miguel, an elderly and wise man who still had enough strength to accompany him on some errands and guide him with the experience of his years. In that same house also lived Lucia, Jose's 15-year-old daughter, as beautiful and radiant as her mother had once been. Lucia had been left without a mother at a young age, for the woman had passed away long ago. Since then, Jose had raised her with all the love and care he could give. To him, Lucia was his most precious treasure, the reason for his daily effort in the fields. Don Miguel, for his part, saw in her not only the reflection of his late daughter-in-law, but also the hope of the family. He watched her grow with pride, though deep inside he carried a silent premonition he never dared to confess. Lucia was the joy of the household. Her father Jose and her grandfather Don Miguel had dedicated their lives to protecting her. Jose worked tirelessly in the milpa, planting corn and caring for the animals, while Lucia helped in every way she could. She milked the cows, gathered firewood, and kept the house clean. She also continued attending school, and although her studies kept her busy, she always returned home with a smile to help her father and grandfather with whatever they needed. Everything began one afternoon when Lucia was returning from school with her books under her arm. The path was the same as always, but that day something changed. She heard a short, soft whistle that seemed to follow her steps. She stopped, thinking that one of the village boys was trying to scare her, but she saw no one. She resumed walking, and the whistle came again, longer this time, as if imitating her breathing. Lucia quickened her pace until she reached home, where she found her father unloading firewood. "Papa," she said nervously, "someone whistled at me on the path, but there was no one there." Jose looked at her tenderly, trying to calm her. "It must have been some boys playing among the trees. Don't pay them any attention, my daughter." She nodded, though deep down she was not convinced. The next afternoon, while returning from the river with a bucket of water, she felt it again. This time, it wasn't just the whistle, it was the sensation of being watched. Her footsteps echoed on the path, and suddenly the wind carried an old hat that rolled until it stopped at her feet. It was small, as if for a very short man, worn out, covered in dust and dry earth. Lucia stared at it for a few seconds, unsure, then left it there, letting the wind drag it into the brush. That night at the table, Lucia dared to tell her grandfather, "It happened again today, Grandpa. I felt like someone was watching me, and an old hat appeared right in front of me." Don Miguel listened carefully. His wrinkles deepened as he frowned. "There are things that should never be picked up, child," he said softly. Jose, who had just set his plate down, intervened. "Don't fill Lucia's head with superstitions, Father. You'll only scare her." Lucia didn't insist, but she noticed that the old man never took his eyes off her, as if he were searching for signs of something he did not dare name. As the days passed, rumors began to spread through the village. Some children claimed that a little man had waved at them from the side of the road, inviting them to play. A woman swore she had seen a small shadow wandering around her yard at dusk. No one wanted to talk much about it, but little by little the stories grew and reached everyone's ears. One morning, Lucia went to the village store to buy supplies. While waiting her turn, she overheard two women whispering. "My son told me he saw him. He said he wore old boots and a big hat. Mine too. He says a little man called him by name." Lucia shuddered and clutched a basket to her chest. She said nothing, but when she returned home, she told her grandfather, "It's not just me anymore, Grandpa. Everyone hears him or sees him." Don Miguel remained silent for a moment before replying, "Sometimes the stories that seem like children's tales are not just that." The unease kept growing. One afternoon, from the porch, Don Miguel overheard two children whispering while they played with a rag ball. "I swear he told me to follow him." "And what did you do?" "I ran. My mom told me that if I ever see him again, I must never speak to him." A chill ran down the old man's spine. He said nothing out loud, but inside he recognized the warnings he had heard in his youth. Stories of beings that roam the paths at dusk. He looked toward the hills where the sun was beginning to set, and his expression grew grave. That night, while Jose and Lucia talked in the kitchen, Don Miguel sat silently in his chair. Lucia noticed his distant gaze. "What are you thinking about, Grandpa?" she asked gently. The old man blinked and forced a faint smile. "Nothing, child, just memories." But in his mind, the children's rumors and the old hat Lucia had found mixed with ancient stories he had never wanted to tell. Deep down, he knew something was drawing closer to the village, something not of this world. One day, Jose and Don Miguel prepared to go to a nearby town to run some errands. Before leaving, Jose stopped at the door and looked at his daughter with tenderness. "Daughter, your grandfather and I have to go take care of a few things. We won't be long, but we'll return when night is already falling. Stay calm, lock the door well, and don't leave the yard. When we get back, we'll have dinner together." Lucia nodded obediently and stayed home. At first she tried to distract herself by reviewing her notebooks, but as the sun sank behind the hills, the silence grew heavier. Outside, crickets sang, and the wind shook the branches with an unsettling sound. Her father and grandfather had not returned, and loneliness began to weigh on her. With her heart racing, she stepped into the yard to look toward the road, hoping to see them coming. That was when she saw him. From the shadows of the forest emerged a small figure. He wore a large hat that nearly covered his face, broken boots, and old clothes. His eyes shone in the dim light, fixed on her. He whistled a strange, hypnotic tune, and in a soft voice he called to her, inviting her to follow him into the darkness of the woods. Come with me," he whispered. Lucia took a step forward as if enchanted. Her feet seemed to move on their own, following the whistle that slipped into her mind like an echo. That same night, as Jose and Don Miguel were returning from town, a neighboring boy ran toward them, his face pale. "Don Jose," he stammered, "I saw your daughter. At dusk, she went into the yard, and then a strange little boy appeared, short, with a big hat. He invited her to play, and she went with him into the forest." A chill ran through Jose's body. Don Miguel understood immediately. "That is no child," he said gravely. "It's the Goblin, the Duende." Without wasting time, Jose ran desperately toward the forest while the old man shouted after him, "If you hear him whistle, bite your little finger If you see him, turn your clothes inside out and never speak to him." The night filled with echoing whistles. Among the trees, Jose saw Lucia walking with empty eyes, following the small figure that laughed with a hollow, sinister echo. "Daughter, don't follow him!" Jose shouted, but she did not seem to hear. Each step took her deeper into the darkness. The goblin turned beneath the brim of his hat, his glowing eyes locking onto Jose. The air grew cold, and a long whistle spread across the hills as if the mountain itself were breathing. Remembering his father's words, Jose bit his little finger hard and turned his shirt inside out. The whistle shattered for an instant. He ran to Lucia, grabbed her by the shoulders, and shook her. "Lucia, wake up! It's me, your father!" She blinked as if awakening from a deep dream. Seeing her father, she burst into tears and clung to him. The goblin let out a short, mocking laugh before vanishing into the shadows, leaving only the echo of his worn boots fading into the forest. Back at home, Don Miguel waited on the porch, his face grave. He saw his granddaughter in his son's arms and sighed with relief. She was pale and trembling, but safe. The goblin didn't complete his spell, the old man said. He tried to take her, but the enchantment was broken. Jose held his daughter tightly, promising never to leave her alone again at dusk. Lucia cried for a while, then managed a weak smile as calm slowly returned. That night, the family ate dinner together, and little by little peace returned to the house. Since then, it is said that in villages the goblin appears, a small being with a large hat, old clothes, and worn boots, who lives in the hidden caves among hills and forests, and comes out at dusk seeking company. Some claim to have seen him wandering around house yards. Others say they have encountered him on lonely paths where young women or children are present. It is said the goblin is obsessed with beautiful women. He follows them, and if they are alone, he tries to take them to his cave. Some say he manages to enchant them, and when they return, they are never the same. To children, he offers games, but if they accept, they disappear. The elders warn that if you hear his whistle, you must bite your little finger or turn your clothes inside out to drive him away. And if you see a small figure watching you from among the trees, do not speak to him. Do not follow him, because if it is the goblin, he will never let you go. And that is why, even when the fire goes out, some stories continue to whisper. If you enjoyed this legend, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like.